It might like give you like a little like it's being recorded. Nothing. Oh. Okay, you guys, the time has come. We are going to talk about some of the drama that happened at the villa, and I have a very special guest. I have the roommate here to tell the drama from a first world experience. And by the way, we're going to use, I think we're going to decided the code word is going to be Voldemort. We're not going to use her name for legal purposes. Consulted my lawyer. Voldemort is the series is her code name. Okay.
Yeah.
So welcome, Kat. Hi.
Hi.
And I'm surprised that you haven't tried to sue me yet either for damages, for emotional damages.
I would never. I would never do
No,
that.
you were such a good sport. And let me just say too, like before we like officially get into the drama, everyone else has been amazing. Like
Yeah.
we just luck out with like everyone else was super cool, super chill. And I feel like 1 out of 12, you know,
Not
is
bad.
like the worst thing. And it did at the end of the day provide a lot of entertainment, provide
Sure
a lot of
did.
bonding opportunity for the group, you
Yeah.
know. So I think at the end of the day it did what it needed to do. But again, Kat was the roommate of Voldemort. So before, like I have Kat, I had shared on my stories like a brief, like little snippet of some of you
Yeah.
who saw her notes. So I think like literally we're at like, I mean, you were scrolling for a while when I saw
Yeah.
the last video. So we've got some pages. But just to give you guys the backstory of like how we got here, right? If you have missed, like we talked a little bit about James and I talked about it on the podcast and a little bit on my stories. But basically, long story short, I wanted to do this trip in Italy. I saw this villa at 2 a.m. last summer and was like, oh my God, how fun would it be to like invite a bunch of like, you know, my audience to come to Italy with us. And I had put this out, found this villa. Of course, all the rooms like mostly were like double occupancy. So I was really like, hey, I would love if like these could be like couples, you know, or like people you know, like either like we had two sisters, you know, of course, you know, a lot of like husband and wife. Just so it'd be easier, you know, for me. But last minute, a couple dropped out for medical purposes. So it was like, all right, no questions asked, totally fine. And so I went back and emailed the group that had like, you know, said they were interested before and was like, hey, I have, you know, one room that just opened, technically two spots. Like, let me know if anyone's interested. And it just so happened, like you, Kat, and Voldemort happened to email me like literally like right away, you know, like right around the same time. And we're both like, hey, I don't have someone else I could bring right now, but like I would totally go by myself. And I'm, you know, like I'm pretty laid back, I'm pretty easy. Like I could stay with, you know, I wouldn't mind staying with a stranger. So, well, you know, I was like, oh, perfect. They're both females. They're both, you know, like I, you know, looked at the Instagrams. I was like, okay, they both like to travel, food. You guys, you know, kind of checked out each other's Instagram. You know, like Instagrams can only tell so much too at the end of the day. I think that's also a lesson that we learned, you know. But it just seemed like everything was gonna work out. And there was one room that happened to be twin size beds. So it was like, okay, perfect. Like you guys don't even have to share a bed. It can be two twins. Perfect. Good. So you two end up going. So technically there were two, you and Voldemort were two technically strangers that ended up rooming together. And let me just say too, like I did some vetting, you know, as much as I could, as much as you really could on someone's social media, of course, like chatting back and forth with people. And, you know, you did the best you could. But of course, like you can't know everything about a person at their social media. And that is what we've come to learn. So fast forward, we did the trip in the beginning of March. So actually March 1st. So we were there for just about a week. And, you know, it turned out Voldemort was not she was Voldemort, you know. Um so Kat, I
Fair.
would love like James and I had talked a little bit on the podcast again, you know, very vague. It just that she was like kind of the worst, pain in the ass. But Kat,
Yeah.
let's
Yeah.
break out the argument. Where do we start?
Like I actually have a couple just from your intro that I was like, "Ooh, that was something." Before we even, I was talking to her. We were connected before we even went there. And I had no red flags either, to be fair. Like, it wasn't, I didn't see it either. It was a lot of business, but I didn't know. So, because she met you before, she was like,
Yes.
Sam totally is not like her IG in real life. Absolutely not like that. She's like so mellow. She'll probably like go off and read her book. I'm thinking on a group trip? I doubt that, but
Right. What?
maybe. I don't know if she was just trying to like, I
Be
don't know
cool.
if she was trying to shit talk it before we even got there. Like, we're just all going to do our own thing and that's why she wanted a rental car. I don't know what she was trying to connect that on.
What she was, and yeah, and I forgot that too, that I, funny enough, had met Voldemort very briefly. And like, of course, everyone's like, how did you know when you met her? I also had met her in Fiji. She was by herself in Fiji. It was a small resort. If you guys were like following at the time, like there's like 40 rooms, like it's a really small resort. And we just like would see her, during the day, and hi, hello, followed each other. So that was another thing. I was like, oh, like she seemed like she seemed fine. Like we didn't really have like in-depth conversations, but she seemed normal, it was a mom. It was like, okay, cool. Anyways, so yes. Continue.
I also have a lot of older friends in that age group too, to be fair. Like, my neighbor is like 52, like maybe 51. I don't know. I don't want to overage her.
Right,
But
right.
like, I'm okay with older crowds too. I get along so well with them.
Yeah.
So I really didn't see it all coming out like this. One other thing she also said was that I wouldn't have been on the trip had she not said, "You know what? It's okay. You can go ahead and invite another roommate for me because apparently you had offered her the room first. And like, if you want a roommate, you can have one." And so really I should be thanking her for being invited on the trip.
Which
Just
like it was both gonna be like you both would have had to say yes at the same time. And I said, you could be alone, but you're gonna have to pay double the price. So if you want to pay double and have the room, that's fine. But when I said that, she was like, "Oh no, 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 no." Then I would definitely want to. So okay, yes,
yeah,
continue.
yeah. Nope, that part was left out. That seemed to
Got it.
happen a lot, this like two-facedness.
Yeah, yeah,
Like when they first landed at the airport, so her flight came in maybe like an hour and a half after mine landed, and I was like, "Oh, well, I'll just wait for you." She got a rental car. She told me she had it. I was like, "I'll go with you to pick up your rental car. Like, we're gonna be besties. Let's hang." So Justin and Katie were also on that flight,
yes.
and she told them like, I got to go get Kat. We got to go get the rental car, so you go ahead. Go ahead. I literally saw them and I was waving and they just like beelined out of there. I didn't realize it was because I
Beep.
told them to just go on. But what she told me was they were in such a hurry to get out of there. They were in such a hurry to get out of the airport that they had to beeline to get to a taxi so they could get to the rental or the villa, I guess, is where they were heading. I mean, where else were they going? I don't know. Like, it's just that two-facedness.
Two Face. And by the way, too, the whole rental car thing was insane because the
Why?
entire part of the trip was like everything was gonna be included, including not like having people drive, because of course I knew there's gonna be wine and drinking, and it was like I didn't want people to have to think about driving cars. So we had like two really nice Sprinter vans to
Really
transport us
nice.
around everywhere. So the fact that she like pulls up in her own rental car, I'm like, why did you get your own car? That makes no sense. But I was
Yeah.
like, whatever. If you want your own car that makes you feel better and you want to pay for it, like, go for it. Sure, whatever.
I
But
mean, in
it's
the US, I am a rental car girly, but like, you had transportation. I didn't have to, the streets are tight.
right. Yeah,
Like,
driving, especially in that area, is like seriously, it's like a
death
suicide.
wish.
So
Yes.
yeah, it's like crazy. But yeah,
So I
sorry.
got to ride with her to the villa and from the villa. That, yay me. Uh, I was her GPS. I read the GPS on the screen to her to tell her where to go.
Yeah.
And I think that might have contributed to another issue later on was like the lack of being able to read GPS and drive in Italy, which she'd been in Italy before. Maybe these streets were different, And maybe the service wasn't the greatest. I don't know. It was
Yeah.
fine getting us to the villa. We got right there on the GPS. It was totally fine. I was also being like bossed around in the car, like, read me the GPS, take videos. This is so beautiful. Take videos. I'm like, I only have so much storage. Like, I went back and looked at those videos and they're like warehouses and like junkyards. It's like, this isn't that beautiful. Like, I don't know why I was recording.
Right. Why was I doing this? Oh my god,
So ridiculous.
sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we get to the villa and like I think too the funniest part, like some people were like, were there red flags before? Like, of course, we had like a group chat. We have like a WhatsApp chat a couple days before we leave for the
Yeah.
trip. And like I think we all like knew right. She was just like it was like overkill. Like videos of her like in her kitchen. Like here's all the things I'm bringing, which funny enough, the strawberry one, like Snuggie became the kind of like the highlight, the red herring, if you will. Where she was like, I'm buying this specially for the villa. And it was like the strawberry Snuggie with her like fluffy flip flops. And she wore it every day.
Yeah. Except for the first day, which I
The
realized. I went back and looked at your videos. You actually caught her in one of
the
the crew necks, but no pants. It's just a sweatshirt, no pants. And that was like day right out of the gate. It's like day one, pants off, and around with couples,
Yeah.
married
Everyone else is like
couples.
married couple. Yeah. And then she's walking around with no pants on.
I mean,
It was
I
a lot.
comfort her comfort level was quick
It
on, head on,
right.
strong. Wow,
Quick and strong.
crazy, quick and strong.
So once we like get to the Ville, everyone's like getting there. Of course, yeah, people have different flights coming in. And then of course, like the part that I was also worried about was the rooms. But I felt like, again, for you guys,
Pretty clear.
the room with two twin beds.
You
That
would
makes the
think.
most sense. You would
You would
think.
think. You would think.
Until like when she gave up, she's like, "Can I talk to you for a second?" And I was like, "Oh God!" Like I just like anytime she wanted to talk to me like privately, it was like, "Oh, what does she want?"
Can I speak to the
Okay.
manager?
Can I speak to your manager? And she was like, yeah, like I know the twin beds, like of course we're the only ones who like haven't fucked each other, but I really like one of the other rooms that was like that was one of the queen beds, and like I'm sure she probably phrased it to you, but that also like starting off like that way, I was like, I mean, you can try, I guess, like to ask another couple if they would want to sleep in two twin, but like I
What?
don't but like we kind of, I kind of went into the saying like, perfect, there's two twin beds. It would make the most sense if you guys, who are complete strangers, slept in the twin
I mean,
beds.
she was like trying to get me to go say something to you. She was like, "You want that room, right? It's bigger, it's better, it's prettier, it's this, it's that." I'm like, we've already moved in. Like, she had already turned the bed down, or we'd separated the beds fully. Like, we had moved in. Stuff
Your
was
friends were
out.
like,
And she's like, "Well, I think we're going to try." She came back and she's like, "We're going to try to like get them to like this room. So let's make it nice again. Let's hide all of our stuff." So everything we had just moved in, we had to like undo and pretty up. Turns out, of course, the married couple doesn't want the room with the twin beds. Duh. Of course they don't. Of course.
right,
I
right.
didn't want them to want it either, you know?
Right. Well, I know. And it's like the whole thing was like, again, hopefully we're not spending like all the time in the rooms anyways. Like it's really gonna be like there's plenty of other places to hang out. Like
Yeah.
we're not really gonna be in our rooms all the time. But anyways, so the trip is starting, and like in the beginning, like I knew it was the first night, like she would just say things that were just like kind of completely out of pocket. And I know you have a list. Like, I don't know if we want to like just like now like go through like some of like the crazy shit that you would either say or do. But
I mean, we can pick a category and pop in and
yeah,
out sometimes
yeah,
too,
yeah,
you
yeah,
know?
yeah, yeah. Pick a category.
Yeah, yeah. I should have had like a bingo board and laid out a spinner and gone for that. So she was gluten free.
Okay.
Right. So she was the only dietary restriction, which like you had planned ahead, right? You talked to everybody ahead of time.
Yep.
She told me that, like, I guess Italy is maybe, I've never fact checked this, so who knows, right? But Italy's like number 3 country in the world for celiac population.
Yeah.
And so they're very accommodating of a gluten-free diet. And what we learned there actually was, yeah, they have a gluten-free option, but it's gross.
Right, it's not gonna be yeah, like, the best thing you've ever had.
It's not, they didn't hand make gluten-free pasta that day. It came from a box, like the gluten-free pizza was a frozen pizza, out of a wrapper that we added toppings to. But
Right.
like the one thing that threw me was like she wanted to chef it up. So she was constantly like she had to huff all of our food.
I just wanted to smell it.
She like would pick that noodle out and inspect it to see if it was handmade. And so she made her own pizza that one night, the pizza
Yeah,
night, and so you could touch it, but when it came to hers, it was like she was on top of everybody. No, that you can't come into contact with other gluten. She's touching it all,
yeah, yeah, that was
but
one thing, like,
she,
hands and everything, licking, hands and all, it was
oh
like
my gosh,
it was very that was very bizarre.
manners, the lack of manners, the
Yeah.
community bowl that she just like confiscated at the Michelin star restaurant. He just went to the table next to her and never left.
Oh my god,
And like, I mean, finger dunking and licking and dunking. I mean, ugh, bleh, bleh,
yeah,
bleh.
yeah,
Yeah, and that's also the Michelin star restaurant. That's where she confiscated some of the extra bottles of limoncello for later,
oh my god.
as if we weren't drunk enough already, like, or full enough.
Stealing there was, like yeah, we went to a Michelin star, like, really nice dinner one night, all of us, and they brought out, like, homemade limoncello and, like, some Amaro, like, some different, like, little liqueurs,
Mhm.
and she's so like, I think, like, literally, like, 6 bottles, and she thought it was so funny to, like, put it in her tits, because she has big tits, and she was like, "I have a party trick too," and then she started shoving the bottles into her dress, and I was like, "I don't think you can just take those." But then later, like, when we were all hanging out, like, at back at home, she just starts taking bottles out of her tits. I was like, "That's crazy."
I mean, I don't think we wasted the liquor once it was already stolen, to be
Mm,
fair,
right, but
but it
it was
came from her
shocking.
tits.
From her tits, it was, like, lukewarm, it was, like,
Voldemort's
surprising.
tits.
It was a lot.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was a lot.
yeah,
It was a lot. What other lack of
yeah,
manners things did she
what other
do?
lack of manners?
Oh, the driver. So the drive there, she
Oh,
got
yeah,
like,
yeah, we need to talk about that.
we went to Florence one day and she wanted to have her car down there in case anybody wanted to buy stuff and like put it in her car and like continue to shop. But I mean, there's just nowhere to park your car in Florence, right? Like you have
That's,
to
like,
park
a central
so
place.
far out.
Yeah, yeah,
So nobody obviously could take their stuff there because it was
walk
like
out
clear
there,
opposite side to town. And like
right,
we didn't, that was a shorter day anyways, I feel like.
yeah,
So it didn't really work out very well for us. And then so leaving Florence, there's nowhere for them to like pull over and just wait for her to come around. And somehow they got disconnected and we had to go because she wasn't there when she should have been. And she
yeah,
got lost and felt like we had all left her, but nobody was getting any messages from her except Nick. And Nick was just like, the driver is driving. I can't hand my phone to the driver and have him give you directions. He's driving.
right,
Like,
he's driving us, and that was the whole point of, like because it is impossible to find parking and, like, get in it, like, this small little city, there's one-way roads, there's no, like like, if you've ever been to Florence, like, it's not like New York City where it's, like, Avenue 1, Avenue 2. It's like all the roads go like this. And she like wanted to drive. And it's like we have these huge, nice vans of these drivers that'll pick us up and drop us off wherever. But she still wanted to drive. So she would, even the days that we were going into Florence, she was like, I want to drive. And she would use it as like, yeah, if anyone like buys anything, you can just like keep it in my car. And we're like, okay. But again, she had to like park kind of like far, not like very centrally located. And then, when we were all going home, even like the driver that I was with in the van, she was like, I want to follow you guys back. But she like always said that she was like, driving around here is so easy. Like I like the GPS, like you just follow GPS, like you can get anywhere. And so when the drivers, like, we made a try to find her at the parking garage, and then somehow we lost her. Like, the drivers did do all they could do.
They did.
They went to dropped her up, like, waited for her to get behind us, and then at some point we just lost her. Like, she just, one of the
Mhm.
stop signs or whatever. And so she ended up getting so pissed that we left her when it's like she had her phone, she had GPS, like, she said it was so easy to get to, she's driven in Italy all the time, it's so easy, but then
Mhm.
was flipping off our drivers, like, saying, "Fuck you," flipping off and, like, getting pissed at people who were on the van because
Yeah.
she was, like, trying to text them to be like, "Hey, wait for me," and they're
Right.
like, "We like, you got like, this is
That
why
yeah.
you
That
should
was
have
like a
gotten
whole
in the
event.
fucking van," right, like, and she was so pissed, crying, like, that
Yeah.
was probably, like, the worst, like, drama night of
Yeah,
the
that was the night I got, like, the 45-minute to an hour vent session from her, and, like, she did say that her GPS signal, like, wasn't working or something, or maybe there was nowhere to pull over and get her GPS going. I don't really know, but she was a little confused and lost, she felt abandoned, that sucks, but, like, I
right, it
mean,
sucks, like, I felt bad, but it was like,
I
that's
don't
why I didn't want
it's
people
why you
driving. That's why I
exactly,
said, "I would really
exactly.
prefer you do the van so we don't have to lose people, we don't have to
Yeah.
worry about you." Yeah,
Yeah, that one was a rough night, to be fair. That was a rough
yeah,
night.
yeah.
Yeah, I think there was, like, some even, like, some, like, personal stuff, I'm not gonna divulge that, but
Yeah.
honestly, I don't even remember it. But, like,
But yeah, she
that
was
was divulged, and, like, it was I mean, sh that was, like, the catalyst for the trip, I think, that also kind of made it like, "Oh, we're not even being cordial anymore, we just don't like each other."
yeah,
Kind of
right,
like
right,
we're here and we're not gonna like no like active fighting or arguments or anything
right,
happened. There
right.
was a confrontation.
There was a confrontation,
Yeah, that
but
happened.
and so I don't know if we wanna talk about that really quick because after that night, like, then it was like, okay, and you could tell, like, she was actively, like, pissed at all of us,
Yeah.
because we abandoned her, and even though, like, I know you apologized, like, I went over and I was like, "I'm so sorry, I didn't even know that you were lost, like, I just figured you were right behind us," and again, you've said so many times your GPS, like, can get you anywhere, and you had no trouble getting here before, so I just figured you were I didn't hear from you, but then that was the night that you were like, "All right, I'm gonna maybe go sleep in," like, we kinda had, like, this big, like, communal, like, living room area.
Yes. And to be fair, we're talking about how great everybody else was. Like all the married couples were even inviting me into their room with them. Like,
Yeah,
come
yeah,
stay with us. Like the sisters, the Mexican
yeah,
sisters.
yeah,
Just kidding, they're
yeah,
Colombian.
they're
Um,
Colombian, yeah, but we did have that was the other thing, we did have 2 sisters who yeah, they're Colombian, but
they're my new besties.
new
They
besties, and they were
yes.
amazing, but
Yes.
they also were butting heads a lot with Voldemort,
Yeah.
mostly because Voldemort was also actively trying to deport them and was like
Yes.
turned out that she was, like, a huge
Yeah.
MAGA well, she was from Canada, so, like, I didn't even think, like, she'd have any say in, like, what like, in the politics, but she would
Boy,
not
did
shut up
she.
about political things. That was another, like,
Yeah.
manners thing too. It's like, read the room, but, like, saying, like, "This trip would be so much better without the Mexicans,"
Yeah.
like, "They should watch because 'cause they're gonna get deported pretty soon." Like, are like,
Like
like,
there aren't
so crazy.
words.
There aren't words. Very, that was like a whole other aspect. That's a whole other category.
Yeah.
Like I don't even know
Right.
how much more. But like, very anti-vax, showing off
Yeah.
like calling whoever got the COVID vaccine an idiot, and COVID wasn't real, and like
Yeah.
going off on rants that was just like, girl, like,
Yeah, there was one night I was just like rapid firing things to you because I was trying to sleep. That was the last night I was trying to sleep there. And you're like, "Are these things she's actually saying?" And I'm like, "Yeah." Word for word, this is happening. Like pulling up Instagram, showing me videos of like what happens if you get vaccines, which too late. I've forgotten them all.
yeah, right.
Whoops.
Well, that was the thing. She was like, anyone who got the COVID vaccine was like, obviously, like, knows that they made a huge mistake. I was like, wait, we do, where are you getting your info? Like, it was just, it was, so that was a whole other thing where it was just like, girl, like, read the, like, anyways,
Yeah.
but I will say, but, like, again, just because people be like, "What happened with the confrontation?" So, long story short, you end up going to the communal room. You're like, for the last, I think it was
Yep,
like maybe 2 or 3
yep,
nights, you end up sleeping in the communal room.
yep.
She also too was up to like 4 or 5 in the morning, keeping you up too, on top of everything, and
Yeah, like, she wouldn't leave, like, now I've moved out, you have the
like,
whole room to yourself, and now you won't leave here, like, can I have the room back then? I mean,
right,
I was plugging it early before I moved, I was like, I'm really a couch sleeper, and I like a TV." That was the only room with a TV in it,
yeah,
so I was like, "Yeah, I'll just move down there and I'll have the TV," and she was like, "Yeah, that sounds kinda nice too," and I'm like, "Well, you can have it if you want it," and she was
no.
like, "No, I'm good, thanks." And I'm like, "All right, then I'm taking it." And she was like, "Weird."
Wait,
So
then I'm
yeah,
gonna take it.
so
'Cause
like
right,
then in front of like half of the group, not the whole group, we're all sitting in the living room, which eventually became my bedroom.
right, yep,
But we were just sitting there and she's like, "So why did you feel the need to leave the bedroom and move down here?" And I'm like, "Well, I just wasn't getting good sleep anymore." She's like, "Well, you slept so soundly the very first night." Like, "Well, yeah, because I hadn't slept in like more than 48
right,
hours. Like, I
right,
can't sleep on a plane. So I just like full on ripped it through
yeah,
2 days with no sleep." So yeah, I slept like a log that first night. But like after that, so she did warn me. She's a snorer. She does snore a little bit. She warned me. She snores a lot of it. Voldemort snores a lot of it, yeah.
right,
And it doesn't start until like 4 or 5 a.m. because that's by the time she
right,
falls
right,
asleep.
right.
And then it's at that time it's like maybe I get another hours of sleep and then I'm up and like I gotta, I don't know, do something, move because I can't sleep through it anymore. And I was sleeping with AirPods in even, and I still like I had The Office playing on my iPad through my AirPods and I still couldn't do it anymore. My ears were bruised from the AirPods too.
Seriously, oh my god.
So, yeah, I don't know.
And then well, I was gonna say the big confrontation was, like, one night, like, she
Yeah,
wouldn't leave your new bedroom, which is the living room, and it was, like, 4 or 5 in the morning, and, the Mexicans, as she likes to call it, had come
thank you.
in, to kinda check on you, and that was kind of, like, probably the biggest confrontation when, like, one of the sisters finally was like, "Girl, like, take a hint, go to like, Kat's trying to sleep, you need to go up Voldemort, like, go up to your room. You have the whole room to
Right.
yourself now."
Yeah.
And that was kind of like the
Yeah,
the
there
big
were some
that
tears
night.
involved.
Some tears.
Apparently on both sides. Anna was just trying to be like, like, we got to chat. Can you please leave us to chat?
Right, yeah, you had just said, "Yeah, we're doing
And
that." Yeah, yeah.
yeah, and Voldemort was like, "That was rude that I couldn't chat. I've been through shit too." And it was like that with everybody's story. Like it was always she had to one up your story. Like, "Oh, you had cancer? Well, I had
I'm
cancer and died from it." Or, like it was like
I'm dead.
exactly. I came back to life. I don't know. Like it was always one more than everybody else's or correcting them. Like when we would ask in our car, the one day she did ride with us, she was we were like asking, "How do you say this in Italian?" to our driver, and I'd see her. I was in the very back of the van. I see her like pull up
Googling.
Google to try to find the phrase, and he'd say something else like more like common, not like Google
Right,
Translate,
more
but the
slang,
common way
right.
to say it. And
Yep.
she'd be like, "Or it's this way," and he'd be like, "Well, yeah, that's the more formal way," or something, like. But we know you. I just watched you Google it, but you
Right.
can't. Yeah,
You can't just, like, say she doesn't know.
it's crazy.
Yeah. And I know I was gonna say, I know we only have a couple minutes, I know you have to go to a work thing, but what I especially, like, the shit that she talked about me, like, I mean, obviously, she said the thing like, "I'm mellow," which whatever, fine. Like, in Fiji too, like, yeah, I probably was more mellow because I was on, like, a shit ton of lorazepam because I knew a cyclone was gonna hit our resort, so I'm, like, stoned out of my mind being, like, trying to have a panic attack, and I also, like, probably didn't wanna talk to her. So that's why I was like, "I'm gonna go read my book, leave me alone."
Right?
But she also was like, yeah, that, like, everything about the trip, like, basically, like, nitpicking everything, and again, she
Hmm.
had said that, like, she's been to Italy a bunch of times, like, she knows this, and it's like everything I did was wrong or questioned. Like, why are we doing this? Like, I thought we were doing this. Like, why are we going back to Florence for a second
Yeah.
day? Like, anything I did
Yeah.
was like being nitpicked and was
You're
wrong.
walking too fast.
I'm
The
walking too
food
fast.
sucks.
Yeah, the
I've
food
seen better. I've seen cheaper. I
yeah,
don't think she bought a thing. I literally don't know what she bought. I never saw her with anything.
yeah, I don't think so either. I don't know. So it was just so that was tough too because again, like I feel like I had sent out the itinerary multiple times. I had always like said like we're doing 2 days in Florence because I feel like there's just not enough time for one day.
Yeah.
And I feel, so that was also like disheartening that like, she just completely was like anything that I was trying to do, which is just it's not her trip. I was like,
Yeah.
you're signing on, like you knew what you were like itinerant, like what we were doing. Like she
Yeah.
wanted like whatever. Um, is there anything what else
What
was there
else do we
anything
have?
else on the list that we
The
needed to cover?
poopery.
Oh, everyone was
Oh my
cracking
god.
up about the poopery.
I
That
mean,
is that's common
seriously.
courtey. That's just it's just
I
again,
bought it.
right.
Like I put
It
it
doesn't
right
take
there.
all it takes. It's not that hard.
Nope, wouldn't use
Mhm.
it. And like, whew, hours later, you could still smell it. Like, it's just like smacked you in the face when you went into the room. Like, whoa, holy shit. It's like when it's that bad, though. I mean, maybe it has something to do with why she's gluten free. Like medical issues can cause that. I get it, but I got spray for us. I got spray for us. Use it. At least try to use it.
At least
No,
try. At
no,
least try.
refusal. Complete refusal. So then I took it downstairs and I was like, everybody come shit in my toilet because it's not going to smell. Who's going to care? Like and also their toilets. Wow. They're so deep. They're
They're
so
very deep
deep.
toilets. Yeah.
So no splashback. It's lovely.
It really is. Their toilets
It's,
are pretty nice.
it's really nice.
With the bidet and everything too, of
Right.
course. Yeah.
Although my when I moved downstairs, I no longer had a bidet.
Oh
So I never
man.
got to take one for a spin.
Damn. Damn, she took that from you. That's
She
harsh.
did. She
That's
did.
hurtful.
Oh, what else
Well,
did she
all right.
get?
Was there anything else? I want to be like I'm respectful of your time too.
Yeah.
So, is there? I feel like that we hit most of it. Like really, again, luckily, thank God, everyone else was. Thank God you were so chill about it.
What are you gonna do?
Everyone else was so fun and good. I feel like we lucked out with only one of them being like a total, crazy pants, like Coco, Cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. But everything else was cool. Everyone else, it was kind of nice. Like when she was like the last day, she was like, I'm staying here, in her strawberry shortcake snuggie and like doing her own thing. We were like, great.
Yeah. I mean, there were a couple other things. Like, I think the highlight of the trip, the time I saw her the most happy, was when
Oh
things
my
got
God. Yeah.
weird.
How can we forget that
Things got very
discussion?
weird in a group chat.
Yeah, so we had the whole WhatsApp, like, on a group chat, everyone was in it, and it was, like, a late night, like, we'd all, like, kind of gone to bed, but it was still, like, people were, like, randomly, like, messaging on the app, like, 1 in the morning, and I can't even remember, like, Nick there was one of the guys who
Yeah,
was, like,
it
using
was
his
Nick.
electric
Yep.
toothbrush that was vibrating. I can't even remember exactly what she said, but then she said something weird. Do you remember, like
I don't even know how it came up. It was just like it was going back and forth like, "What are you doing over there, Nick? What's that
the
sound? It's
vibrating
going
weird
on for so
vibration?
long." And
Yeah,
she like jumped in. It was him and the sisters initially just being like playful, and
yeah.
then Voldemort came in and was just like took it too far. Somehow started like offering to lend her two fingers
Yeah, she was like, "If
to the
you need my fingers to
situation.
be involved, like, I'll be right over." And it was like, "Okay." And then everyone just stopped responding because it was like, yeah, that
I
was
mean, there were a bunch of pineapple replies from
no,
her
she
too.
did
Like
like
she pineapple that was weird.
yeah, she was pineappling, sending a lot of pineapples.
Yeah, yeah, there was a lot of that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just
But
like
that was
stuff
the
like
happiest she was, and that was, like, at 2 or
wasn't
3 in the morning in the group chat. She's just,
yeah,
like, chuckling in the bed behind me.
she thought it was so funny.
So
Yeah, she thought she was being really funny.
uh,
Anyways, good we all
that's about
survived.
it.
At the end of the day, we have a great story to tell.
Yeah, yeah,
It did provide some good entertainment. And you know what? You win some, you lose some. Again, 1 out of 12,
not
like
bad.
that's still pretty good odds, you
And,
know?
like, I wanted to say, I feel like my therapist and would be proud if I said, like, it is probably a trauma response from her,
That's the thing. Like I
like
think, yeah, she does obviously have some things going on. So that's why, it's like don't want to be, I don't know.
yeah.
I don't know. Too
But,
me
like
like offensive, but she's definitely been going. She's definitely has some shit going on.
she did her fair share of trying to ruin the trip.
Yeah, yeah, she was actively wa trying to ruin it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
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 so, yeah,
but she
kinda
didn't.
deserves
She
this.
she
She
can
didn't.
try,
She didn't.
but I think,
No.
other than her, everything else, like, again, if she wasn't there, like, it would've been, like, the perfect trip, so
Yeah, totally. I'll pay
anyways,
for double occupancy next time.
I know, like, lessons were learned,
Lessons
lessons were learned.
Yeah.
Or, like, just getting, like, finding a villa that does have some, like, single rooms and, like, find a way to, like, I don't know. I'll have to, like, think about that next time, but anyways, I love
Something.
you so much. I know you have to go to a
Love
work
you.
thing. Thank you
Yes.
so much.
Of
You're
course.
the best. I love you.
Thank
Hold on, I'm gonna
you.
stop recording this. Hold on.